Understand what black is. The source from which all things come. The security blanket for the stars. Understand what black is. It's not a color. It's the basis of all colors. It is not a complexion. It is a reflection of all complexions called human. And out of this blackness, passion flows like a river. Feelings tell the truth. Song and dance and making you laugh are family members. Understand what black is. The breath you breathe, the sweat on your brow, the cheers and the tears balancing the world on your head. Faith is the glue that holds us all together. This is your blackness, not some horror story of lost souls drifting into the land of perversion. Black as love is a light shining on a path leading to the sun, or caressed in the bosom of the moon.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHH LP 103.5 FM, your home for community radio. Today's guest host is Barbara Fair.
Hello, my name is Barbara Fair, and I'm sitting in today for Tom Ficklin, who's on assignment. And I'm very grateful for this opportunity to talk about a very important campaign going on in Connecticut. I'm a member of Stop Solitary Connecticut, and we're working to end solitary confinement as a punishment within the DOC in Connecticut, as well as demand the closing of Northern CI, a facility located in Somers, Connecticut. In Tom's absence, my guests are James Jeter and Dacon Young. Thank you both for showing up today. Yes. And being a part of this in conversation. So solitary confinement has many names, and we'll talk about all of them. International law defines solitary confinement as spending 21 hours or more in a cell each day, with limited opportunities for social engagement with others. Several facilities under the EOC meet the guidelines of solitary confinement, although they will deny it. Northern CI, where the harshest conditions of confinement are keep people locked within a cement cell for 23 hours a day with 1 hour outside of that cell and shackled at that 1 hour. At Northern, nearly 90% of those who are kept in these harsh conditions are African American and Latino. And recently, a U.S. judge ruled that death row prisoners that are held in those conditions, that he ruled this as cruel and inhuman, and has demanded that DOC make some changes in the conditions, and as well as a possible money remedy for the people who have been under these conditions. So I'm going to get right into the conversation talking about the United Nations, who recently signed on, and just read you a few things that that they had to say about solitary confinement. Solitary confinement welcomes the recent statement from the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Torture. His name is Niels Mesler. He publicly condemned the Connecticut Department of Corrections for its use of isolation and restraints. The DOC, he said, appears to routinely resort to repressive measures, such as prolonged or indefinite isolation, excessive use of in-cell restraints, and needlessly intrusive strip searches. The expert said there seems to be a state-sanctioned policy aimed at purposely inflicting severe pain or suffering, physical or mental, which may well amount to torture. He went on to say that DOC's practice of using restraints on incarcerated people includes those with serious mental illness. Prisoners are shackled at the hands and feet with the tether chain connecting the two chains, and they're left there for 72 hours, some for as long as a week. The shackles prevent the men from being able to stand up straight, wipe themselves after using the toilet, or even lift their food to their mouths. So one of the people who have been really instrumental, or group who has been very instrumental in bringing change, has been the Lowenstein Law Clinic, headed by Professor Hope Metcalf. And so we want to go on and talk to our guests today, because this is really about what they have to share. because I'm learning from them what it's like to be in solitary in Connecticut. So before we go on, I wanted to start out with asking Daquan, how much time did you serve in Connecticut prisons?
I did about 13 years in the state of Connecticut prisons.
Mhm.
Most of that I did in Northern Correctional Institution. So I did like 7 years in Northern Correctional Institution.
Okay. So you've been in other prisons. Has Gardner been one of them?
Yes.
You spent time in Gardner also?
Yes.
And how long were you in Gardner?
I was probably there for like 18 months.
Oh, okay. Can you just describe what it's like start with Gardner. What is it like being in Gardner?
Basically, now I was in Gardner. I was basically like in a mental health block.
Mm-hmm.
They put you basically in a mental health block for like I had I was basically there for like 18 months, being in a mental health block. It's still like 22 out of 24. It's the same thing. Like you're there, you don't come out much, as in, like you're basically there. You're in garden, you have a TV, you have cells. It's like any other level 4.
Mm-hmm.
It's like any other level 4, but you don't get certain things out of like being in Cheshire, like certain blocks you like garden you can't get coffee. There's certain commissaries that you can get, you know what I mean? Just because of the simple fact that you're basically mental health. So they actually don't give you everything that's on a commissary form. You know what I mean? You can't some people could get like you can't have decaf coffee.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you're basically out, Some staff that's actually there, they'll mess with you, they'll provoke you, they'll fight you, you know what I mean? I done seen that actually there.
Wow.
And then they'll put you downstairs in a mental health block, and then they'll take you back to the same block, to that same cell.
In the mental health block, how are you treated there?
You're not treated fair at all. You're not treated as in you would be there like in any other level block that's there. You're treated differently because they look at you differently.
How are you there? Like I've heard that they strip you down, chain you down, all of that in mental health?
Yes, they actually do. They take your clothes off right then and there. They ask you to cough, squat, spread your butt cheeks. You're not supposed to do that because it's not in protocol. You're just supposed to cough and squat. Then they tell you put your hand in your mouth. You're not even supposed to do that because now I done touch, my behind, and then I turn around and then now I'm putting my hand in my mouth. That's nasty. You don't treat nobody like that.
And this is your mental health treatment.
Right.
Wow. James, how much time did you spend in Connecticut prisons?
19 and a half years.
19 and a half. Were you ever in Northern?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. Did you spend any time in solitary?
Yes.
What's the difference between solitary confinement and segregation? It gives so many names. What's the difference between them?
As a function in the state, there's no difference between solitary and seg. The only difference comes in between administrative segregation and segregation.
Okay, so explain that, because when I say people we have an issue with solitary confinement, many times, people will say, well, there's really no solitary confinement. So explain the different levels of confinement.
Any Class A offense can get you time in segregation.
What's a Class A offense?
Any offense that there's levels of offenses that DOC has. So Class A being the highest, a fight, or disobeying a direct order, or tampering with safety and security, which is a very general and broad covering of a lot of stuff.
Tell me what you mean by tampering with security.
So if I convert a extension cord into a stinger so I can cook food, it's a Class A ticket called tampering with safety and security. If I make a 3-way phone call, Class A ticket called tampering with safety and security.
So it's that high a level.
Those
just making a third.
Those are the
three-way
most
call?
written tickets for that charge.
Wow.
Which is, stinger, which is what you cook with, and make a
Mhm.
3-way phone call are the most uh, tickets written under that statute. Well, not a statute, just whatever rule that is.
Right. And then, so how many Class A tickets sends you to Northern?
3 within 120 days.
Okay. And so you can just say, got on a phone call 3 times and call, like you call the prisoner calls you, and then you call another family member or friend.
Mm-hmm.
That's a Class A ticket.
Class A ticket.
You can get 3 of those, and you can actually end up in Northern.
Yes.
Wow. Because when the way Northern is marketed, they say it's the worst of the worst are there.
The worst of the worst are created. There's no such thing like, you treat people inhumanely, then you get inhumane outcomes from those same individuals. So, I mean, a lot of people end up in Northern for not allowing an officer to just speak to them any type of way. It's also a Class A ticket. Because if I give you a direct order, stop talking, go a direct order. So when you don't obey it, disobeying a direct order. So if I have an issue, if I have a 3-way phone call, I get a Class A ticket. I get an argument with the CO, grants me a Class A ticket. Then I get another argument with the CO, I get a Class A ticket. I go to Northern, right? So now I'm in Northern, and I already have enough respect for myself that I don't allow people to talk to me any type of way.
Right.
So in Northern, this can only get worse for you.
Right. Talk about Northern. Taekwon, because you've actually been there.
Yeah, I've been to Chronic. I've been to AS. AS is Administration Segregation. I've been to SRG.
So those are the different levels
Those are the 3 levels that's in 285 Billiton Hilton Road, in Northern Correctional Institution,
which is Summers,
Connecticut. Yes. So being in there is like having you in there. You have a cell by yourself. Sometimes they'll put you in there with a cellie.
What does the cell look like?
It's brick walls. It's basically concrete.
This room minus that window. Well, no.
Yeah, you have a little window.
Uh-huh.
You have a little window, a front window, and a back window, and basically it's all concrete, full concrete. Wow. And you're there 23-1. You eat, sleep. You shower Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. If you got to see mental health, they'll probably do around. But anytime that you come out of your cell, you're chained up. When you go to the shower, you're chained up. You're not chained up from the front, you're chained up from the back. When like, say for instance, today's my shower day, and I gotta go take a shower. They'll pop my trap. I put my hands behind my back. They'll come in, they'll chain me, then they'll chain my legs. I have my boxers, underwears, and socks. I have it on me. So they'll carry me to to a shower. They'll have a trap on the shower door. Then they'll put me in there. So they'll open the trap back up, and they'll take the handcuffs off my hands, but I still will have the leg cuffs on there. Those don't come off until you're done with your shower. You only got a 20-minute shower. So once I'm done with that, I gotta press a button. It'll notify them in the office. They'll come. They'll open the trap. I'll put my hand back in the trap. Then I'll go to my cell, and then they'll uncuff my feet. Then they'll close the door. Then they'll open my trap, and then I will get uncuffed.
Okay, I'm listening to that description, and I understand in Northern there are right now they've held hundreds, but right now it's currently, I think, 77 people. Okay, and then they have a staff of over 100, and I think it's like 140 staff members. So when I listen to how you say people are in the cell 23 hours a day, and every moment they're out, they're shackled hand and feet.
Yes.
I can't understand what is all this staff for, because it doesn't seem like you would need twice as many staff for a shackled person.
Well, basically, they there just to be there. Basically, they have staff that's there that do their rounds. Then they'll have staff that they'll be in the office. Like during the morning time, they'll have like probably like this would be a bunch of staff that'll come, go out. They'll take us out for outside for rec. When we go outside for rec, we cuffed up. You ever been to the dog pound, and you know how they got the gates after dog pound?
Right.
That's how we go outside. Just like that. The
Wow.
gates are just like that. Only thing that we're shackled up from the back like that.
And that's your rec.
And that's how we only get 1 hour. Monday through Friday, we get 1 hour. So,
Wow.
It frustrates you. It drives you really intense, That's why a lot of people have problems when they actually come home from being in that type of environment. That's why it's always hard to get out of there, because staff they play with your mail, you know what I mean? They mess with your food, people like that have a advantage over people like us. We're still humans, we're still human beings, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They don't have respect, like for instance, if a staff don't like you and you trying to cover the window to use the bathroom, but you give him enough to look inside, you know what I mean? You're getting a Class A tickets. Now he's gonna call the lieutenant, and then you have a staff that's a lieutenant that really don't care, you know what I mean? And then he'll come and put you on incels. Now you in a black box. You in a black box.
What is that?
A black box is something that they actually chain you up. Nobody can ever get out of a black box. It's something that they chain you, and it's a black box for a reason. I can't quite explain it.
I can. So
Okay.
It look like my phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Little box, cuff comes out here, and the cuff comes out here.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that it's created is that it limits all mobility from your waist, from your arms, from your hands, from your wrists. All mobility is limited, and it's painful. It's extremely painful to be in, because they use them on court trips. They but to use them in somebody who's in a cell already,
It's crazy.
it's crazy. There's no way to move
You can't move nothing, and I'm down like that to my waist. So
For how long?
for 3 days, you have to
3
eat.
days?
You have to eat, sleep,
It's
and use
impossible.
the bathroom like that.
It's impossible.
I
It's
did it.
And that's
impossible.
because you covered the
Your
window
window.
so you can have privacy using the toilet.
You have people like that. They got authority, and then when you try to explain yourself, and they tell them, "Oh, cuff up," and all the rest of this, I want to speak to mental health, because I don't think that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I don't think that's fair. Now you're causing stress. You know what? I'm already stressed out because I'm here and I'm trying to do good to get out of here. But now you provoking me, you saying this, so now it's actually is causing a problem. Now I'm about to get into a black box because I cover my window to using the bathroom. And they'll call mental health, but mental health will be like, well, this is what you got to do. This is something that is out of our hands. Is up to custody to do it.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Custody and mental health, they're different. But mental health basically does what custody tell them to do.
Everybody does what custody tells them. Custody has final say in everything to do.
That's what that's about.
So you can be seriously mentally ill,
Mm-hmm.
and having issues in the prison, and custody will say, well, put him in the black box. Like, they don't even care that you have mental health problems.
Well, I know Northern actually would do that. Northern, I've seen it before.
But Northern's the only prison that uses. Well, I can't say that, because now you have administrative seg in I think every prison. So, and they're all ran like a Northern. Like you might have 5 people in that whole block, but every shift has 8 officers. So, so it's the same thing. You can't leave your cell without being cuffed. 1 hour rec, but it's decentralized from one prison to every prison.
So what I'm hearing is a lot of the work that activists have done to reduce the population in Northern has really only shifted the practices of Northern to other prisons. Is
Yeah.
that what you're saying?
Yeah, cause like when I was in Osborne, and I never forget it. I was walking down the hallway and I knew they had training, but I was getting ready to go somewhere. I was going to a group, so I seen an officer named Pafumi. So when I said, "What's going on, Pafumi?" He looked at me. He was like, his eyes got big. But I know, see, Northern is the number one that they do. Northern New Haven, they train officers. You know what I mean? But Northern is the main one that shows them how to chain somebody up. That's where they do all they training at. You know what I mean? So when I was in Osborne, they had Northern, see, because it's right next door. It's like right next door, you know? So they come over, they train them, and, you know, they show them the CERT team. They have a CERT team. I got into it with the CERT team one time. You know what I mean? They come in, they do some damage to you. They beat you up. They pull your hair. They put the 505 can mace. They spray. I got hit with 3 cans of 505 mace, full bottles, and the mace, that mace right there, it don't sting. It chokes you. It chokes you right out. You can die from that mace. So they use excessive force in there.
And I just want to know, how do people leave there after you've been treated like that?
It's real hard. It's really, really hard to leave out of Northern. It's really like you have to be mentally strong to lead that. I've been in there 7 years. It's really hard. It's really, really hard. I was there when Jeffrey McGill was warden.
Wow. So, I know that you have, James, have been to Greenville prison, a prison where some Connecticut prisoners were sent to.
Yeah.
Tell me the difference between that place and, I mean, as far as the makeup of staff, the conditions, the way you were treated. How was that in comparison to Connecticut prisons?
Well, for one, my door popped 5 o'clock in the morning, didn't lock again until 11 o'clock at night. So
wow, you were out all those hours.
All those hours. Everybody had a job. Everybody in the prison has a job. You get 2 hours outside. I mean, you're in your pod from those hours, but you go outside 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, and 2 hours at night.
Wow.
They had different colleges from Virginia coming in to teach courses. They had a barber school. They had a pod representation that met with administration once a month to negotiate, you know, new games or, you know, different commissary items that they wanted added or taken off. So it functioned around rehabilitation. It was still prison.
Yeah, it sounds like rehabilitation.
I mean, and that's not to like big up Virginia because they got some pretty.
Oh, I'm sure, but yeah, I'm talking about.
But that place was all right.
Yeah,
it was as compared to, you know, leaving Cheshire, going there, and coming back to Cheshire, and just seeing the different mentality. The 98% of the staff was black. There's just a different culture of what they wanted to take place in their prison. So, you know, regardless of what Connecticut says they're about, the cultural practices of incarceration are
and you said they were different as far as the demographics of the staff.
I mean, you have a lot of minority officers in Connecticut. So let's like look at like when you're talking about systems, race doesn't matter, right?
Right.
There's a prevailing thought about the people that everyone who works in it abides by, and so that's why, like, you know, you get black cops beating up people and shooting people because it's a prevailing thought within the structure, within their, you know, insular culture. And so in DOC, you know, you have just a huge, excessive power being given to the it's not just rank and file power to the most subordinate individual in rank and file has the most power for someone's life, and that becomes abusive in every measure. There's no due process in prison, and so, you know, you never have a right to address your accuser. Your accuser is your captor, and therefore their law. A CO can pull a camera to prove I did something, but I can't pull a camera to prove I didn't.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? If the CO writes a ticket, that ticket also becomes the evidence against me at the DR board. And so just because he wrote it, it becomes law. Like it's now law in my life, no matter what he says in his paper. When I have to defend myself, I have to defend myself against an officer and his ticket. There's no defense to that. There's nothing I can say or prevent that says otherwise. I'm not allowed to present. I can call a million witnesses. Yeah, well, this is what's written.
And that's final for them.
Final. That's final. So,
and that's one of the reasons. Like one of the things that solitary confinement Connecticut is expecting is to have a form of independent oversight, because I hear those stories all the time. Like it's almost like when you go to court, or even in internal affairs of the police department, you bring your issue to the police before the internal affairs, and other police get to police what was written. What's the outcome? Same thing in court. You go to court and they offer you something, and if you refuse it, you end up getting more time. So most people will just plea bargain. So it's like it's a system seems like from top to bottom. The whole system is just so corrupt and unfair and unjust, and the defendants really don't have any kind of defense.
No, and then here you have less than at least in court you have certain procedures that have to be upheld, even if they don't work for you. The procedure in itself has to be upheld. Like I have a right to address my accuser.
Mm-hmm.
Like I might not want to exercise that right. It might not be in my best benefit, but I have the right. I have the right to produce contradicting evidence to what's being presented against me. You don't have these rights in DOC. It's you against what an officer says, and you will always lose that.
And all the officers are of course, they're like a brotherhood, so you already know what's going to happen.
That's a union they have.
Yeah. One of the things, like you were talking about Summers, is that where death row prisoners are held also?
No, they hold down in Northern and 1 East, basically where I was at. I met some of them. Like when they go outside, you can actually see them from your cell.
Mm-hmm.
It depends what side of the wall you on. You know what I mean? They have like the whole prison system is basically it's a break. You know what I mean? But death row is hold down and actually in 1 East and Northern and institution. So they have like once you get there, they say you go underground, but by the time you get where you gotta go, you got a whole football field you have to walk down to get to where you gotta go.
So I asked that question because you were talking about the conditions that people are under in Northern, and it could be for, like you said, for just three tickets. Three tickets continue there, and so I'm thinking about a U.S. judge who recently declared that death row prisoner who brought a lawsuit. They said that the conditions were cruel and inhuman, and also that that prisoner could actually get some compensation for what he went through. So when I think about them saying that someone who's on death row, that these are cruel and inhumane, I can't imagine that they don't feel even worse about somebody who's in Northern for simply getting 3 tickets.
Right. It's crazy because, like when I first started out, I was in chronic. I got out of chronic.
Where's chronic? Is that
chronic is still in Northern. Now they have chronic in other places.
Oh, okay.
But now what they do is, since they have that, they can actually give you 3 tickets and you can go to AS, which is administration segregation. It's the 9.5 director. They can actually place you there. AS is a whole year. It's a whole year. You have to wait 4 to 6 months for that ticket to even clear before you even get to the first phase in AS administration segregation for phase 1. So once you do phase 1, which is 4 months, then you got to do another 3 months in phase 2. Then you do another 3-4 months in phase 3, and then you gotta wait 30 days. You gotta wait for your package to actually go to you have to wait for your package to go to the warden. They send it out to Weathersfield, and then you know what I mean. Well, actually, the population, pop management, and then you still have to wait to get on a bus to actually leave. But it took me a long, long, long time to leave, and it messes a lot of people up when they come home. So even if you didn't finish AS and you go to, like, say for instance, I didn't finish AS, and basically I had 18 months to do, and I maxed out my 18 months. Once you go back to 245 Welly Avenue, they look up on the computer, oh, you're AS. You got to go
And
to
you
SAG.
automatically
You
go there.
automatic go back.
Wow.
Automatic go back. So you have to start that phase all over again. So you run into these things of not knowing, I gotta go back. Damn, I gotta go back to Northern. I gotta do this. You know what I mean? So your mentality, you can already see Northern before you get there. Who's my cellie? Because see, they'll put you in a cell with somebody and they'll cuff a person up, but they'll leave enough links. And what I mean by links, they won't cuff the person all the way, so he can slide his handcuffs off and he can attack you. You know what I mean? I experienced that too. Dude almost knocked me out because of a staff sat there and told him something different. He didn't even know me. Wow. And what they did was they took me out, put me on incels, gave him the cell, and chained me up and said that basically, oh, well, he came in here, but now you should tell him, look on your camera, look how I came in. You know what I mean? I didn't do nothing to this guy. I never said nothing to him. And I was still like that for 3 days.
And so they do that purposely, you're saying?
Yes, they do. They gamble on that type of stuff. That's something that they actually do. That's just like when you first come and then you see medical. This is a little saying that medical has. She say, basically, your vitals are good, your health is good, and if you and your Shelly get into a fight, don't hit the panic button. But they say it real fast. You know what I mean? So it makes a person look at like, what she just say? You know what I mean? If you don't really catch how she said it, you know what I mean? And then the staff, the COs, they be like, well, yeah, you going in here, you going in there. Watch out for your Shelly. Your Shelly might, put his hands on you, or they'll amp it up so you can get into a fight. You know what I mean? This is how they think. This is their mentality.
See, we celebrated Northern for so many years as I'm talking about Connecticut, because when Northern was finished and it became a viable spot, they took cigarettes, right? And so, and they had to figure out how to take cigarettes, because in New York they took cigarettes and gave it back 3 days later because 2 guards died, right? And so they took cigarettes. They said this is the date cigarettes were in. It was like I ain't doing it. Then with Northern,
wow,
right? It quelled the system. They broke the gangs up, Northern. And so we was like, oh, this works. This works. Our system is safer. It works. And so, when the focus is on the safer system, you're not looking at what the actual institution, that one place actually doing to people. And then it just keeps growing. Like the appetite to put people there keeps growing. So then it goes from, we use as a tactic to do this, that, and the third, to you got 3 Class A's.
Yeah. And they always market it as it's about public safety.
Everything to do about public safety.
Yeah. And I kind of push back on that when they say that a place like Northern is about public safety, because I also look at it's a public health issue too. Because what about how you're crushing people's spirit and breaking their minds, and then those people are going to come back to our community, and how safe is that for them, for their families, for the community? So it is an issue of both. What I have the hardest time understanding is how the correction officials state that one of our demands is to close down Northern. There's no place for that place in a civil society, and they'll push back and say that it's a necessary tool. That's how I can't understand.
I mean, I don't understand how it's necessary when you've added AS to all 4 A level 4s. You have an AS block in all 3 level 4s. You only have 77 inmates in this one prison, or incarcerated bodies in this one prison. But each unit holds at least 100 people. So if you have 4 level 4s with an AS block in them, you have no reason to have anybody in this building.
Right. Okay.
And that's not just but decentralizing it can actually cause more harm. Because now you have one focal point, right? It's Northern.
Right.
But then, a lot of abuses that take place in prison in general, let alone then the AS block where there's no eyes on it. There's no eyes on the AS block.
Really? Because I was told that whenever there's an interaction between the CO and a prisoner, that they have to have cameras there to show everything.
But we're seeing that society with body cameras. How many incidents happen when body cameras are off? Right, and so who determine who's there? Where's the oversight to say that the camera's on? Say that the incident even happened. Where's the oversight? Because if I can do something to the dude and put him in a cell, where's the oversight? Who knows?
Right, and that's why we think that's one of the very, very important parts after closing down Northern is we definitely have to have some independent oversight. So I know our time is coming close, so there's a couple of things I wanted to mention before we continue the conversation. And one of them is if you want to find out what Stop Solitary Connecticut is up to, we have a website, a Facebook page. You can go to stopsolitaryconnecticut.org and keep up with anything we're doing. The 23rd of every month, we usually have some kind of event, and that's to signify the 23 hours that people are held in their cells. And we had a vigil in Cheshire on the 23rd of last month. And it was very, I was surprised at all the support we got. It was right outside the grounds of Cheshire Correctional and Manson Youth, which Manson Youth is where they hold our young people, do similar things to them. And that's why they're under federal investigation now. But we had a vigil out there, and we actually had clergy from Cheshire came and brought some of their membership and stood with us. So I mean that was great. So the next one we're planning is going to be protests or vigil, whatever you want to call it, outside Department of Corrections in Weathersfield, because this is where all the policies and culture shaping is done. So that's going to be March 23rd. We don't have all the final details, but I say go to stopsolitaryconnecticut.org and you'll find out the details. Another thing that's coming up on the 21st of this month, there's going to be, it's the 1-year anniversary of a young man who lost his life in Whaley Avenue in solitary. He was 5-point restraints and left in a cell for hours. And when they went back, his body had already, rigor mortis had already set in. And so his mom, she's grieving her son right now. And so on the 21st, the anniversary, she wants to do something around Whaley Jail. We don't have all the details from her yet, but when they do, they will go up on that website. So, and her name is Colleen Lord. So, and then another thing I'm finding out today, you can watch us live on YouTube by going to New Haven Independent, and all the videos come up, or you can watch us live on Facebook. So I just wanted to throw that in there. And so let me go back to the conversation. Well, one of the things I want to talk about also is the PROTECT Act, which we're putting before the legislature this session. It's a short session, but you know what I found? When things happened in Cheshire, it didn't take years and years to make changes, especially around parole. They was ready to drag everybody off the street that was on parole, put them back in there because it was parolees who did this. When the shooting went on in Newtown, they was very quick to start all kind of policy changes. So our organization doesn't want to hear, because I was told, oh, we're going to do something in 5 years. We're not going to hear that, but because our lives are important too. So we put forth before the Judiciary PROTECT Act. And some of the things that it's asking for: stop extreme isolation, end abusive restraints, protect social bonds, which means we want our people that's in solitary should still be able to get mails, have visitors and everything, phone call, just like everybody else. Those cannot be used as measures of punishment. We want to promote correctional officer wellness. That's going to happen when you start shifting the culture, because we also found that this kind of behavior affects officers also. Some of them end up with mental health problems themselves, alcoholism, suicide. So it's also about changing the culture for both prisoner and COs. And of course, our number one is shut down the Supermax, Northern. We don't need it. And ensure oversight and accountability. So those are the 5 things, 6 things that we brought before our judiciary. We have some great people working, heading it up. Gary Winfield Holder and Robin Porter and Tony Walker, people like that. Josh Elliott, they're all supporting what we're doing. So we're hoping that we can actually get this done in the next session. And so I want to just take this last minute just to thank both of you for coming in today. I mean, I've learned a lot from listening and talking to both of you. And I hope the education will also help people out there in the community that are listening in to realize that they have a stake in what's going on in our prisons. We can't turn a deaf ear or a blind eye to what's going on, because all of those people are somebody's loved one, their father, their brother, sisters, all. So they all matter. And so we have to make sure that they're treated in a humane manner. And at the end of the day, you realize society is judged by how we treat our most vulnerable people. And when you hear stories like what you're talking about,
Yes.
you have to wonder, like, what does that say about our society? Either people have lost their humanity, those who can inflict this harm on others and not see anything wrong with it, or those who allow these policies to continue, where's their humanity? Either you have lost your humanity, or you don't respect the humanity of the people that we're oppressing. So it's one or the other. Make a choice and decide to do the right thing. Thank you very much. And I want to thank Tom for allowing me this opportunity, and I hope he's enjoying this. So thank you.
Yeah. As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission. I'ma roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and